Okay, we're back with Acts chapter 22, and Paul is talking to the crowds after just being arrested. "Brothers and esteemed fathers," Paul said, "listen to me as I offer my defense." When they heard him speaking in their own language, and he's speaking in Aramaic, by the way, when they heard him speaking in their own language, the silence was even greater. "I am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And I was brought up and educated here in Jerusalem under Gamaliel. At his feet I learned to follow other Jewish laws and customs very carefully. I became very zealous to honor God in everything I did, just as all of you are today. And I persecuted the followers of the way, hounded some to death, binding and delivering both men and women to prison. The high priest and the whole council of leaders can testify that this is so. For I received letters from them to our Jewish brothers in Damascus, authorizing me to bring the Christians from there to Jerusalem in chains to be punished. As I was on the road nearing Damascus about noon, a very bright light from heaven suddenly shone around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?' Who are you, sir?" I asked, and he replied, "I am Jesus of Nazareth, the one you are persecuting." The people with me saw the light, didn't hear the voice. I said, "What shall I do, Lord?" And the Lord said to me, "Get up and go to Damascus, and there you will be told all that you are to do." I was blinded by the intense light and had to be led into Damascus by my companions. A man named Ananias lived there. He was a godly man in his devotion to the law, and he was well thought of by all the Jews of Damascus. He came to me and stood beside me and said, "Brother Saul, receive your sight. And the very hour I could see them. Then he told me, "The God of our ancestors has chosen you to know his will and see the righteous one and hear him speak. You are to take his message everywhere, telling the whole world what you have seen and heard. And now, why delay? Get up and be baptized and have your sins washed away, calling on the name of the Lord." One day after I returned to Jerusalem, I was praying in the temple, and I fell into a trance. I saw a vision of Jesus and saying to me, "Hurry, leave Jerusalem, for the people here won't believe you when you give them your testimony about me." "But Lord," I argued, "they certainly know that I am imprisoned and beat those every synagogue who believed on you. And when your witness Stephen was killed, I was standing there agreeing. I kept the coats they laid aside as they stoned him." But the Lord said to me, "Leave Jerusalem, for I will send you away to the Gentiles." The crowd listened until Paul came to that word. Then with one voice they shouted, "Away with such a fellow! Kill him! He isn't fit to live!" They yelled, threw off their coats, and tossed handfuls of dust into the air. Paul reveals his Roman citizenship. The commander brought Paul inside and ordered him lashed with whips to make him confess his crime. He wanted to find out why the crowd had become so furious. As they tied Paul down to lash him, Paul said to the officer standing there, "Is it legal for you to whip a Roman citizen who hasn't even been tried?" The officer went to the commander and asked, "What are you doing? This man is a Roman citizen." So the commander went over and asked Paul, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" "Yes, I certainly am," Paul replied. "I am too," the commander muttered, "and it cost me plenty. But I am a citizen by birth." Those soldiers who were about to interrogate Paul quickly withdrew when they heard he was a Roman citizen, and the commander was frightened because he had ordered him bound and whipped. Paul before the high council. The next day the commander freed Paul from his chains and ordered the leading priest into session with the Jewish high council. He had Paul brought in before them to try to find out what the trouble was all about. Okay, Acts chapter 23. Gazing intently at the high council, Paul began, "Brothers, I have always lived before God in all good conscience." Instantly Ananias the high priest commanded those close to Paul to slap him on the mouth. But Paul said to him, "God will slap you, you whitewashed wall. What kind of judge are you to break the wall yourself by ordering me struck like that?" Those standing near Paul said to him, "Is that the way you talk to God's high priest?" "I'm sorry, brothers. I didn't realize he was the high priest," Paul replied. "For the scriptures say, 'Do not speak evil of anyone who rules over you.'" Paul realized that some members of the high council were Sadducees and some were Pharisees, so he shouted, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, as you are all my ancestors, and I am on trial because my hope is in the resurrection of the dead." This divided the council, and the Pharisees against the Sadducees, for the Sadducees and sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, say there is no resurrection or angels or spirits, but the Pharisees believe in all of these. So a great clamor arose. Some of the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, jumped up to argue that Paul was right. We see nothing wrong with him, they shouted. Perhaps a spirit or angel spoke to him. The shouting grew louder and louder, and the men were tugging at Paul from both sides, pulling this way and that. Finally, the commander, fearing they would tear him apart, ordered his soldiers to take him away from them and bring them back to the fortress. That night the Lord appeared to Paul and said, "Be encouraged, Paul. Just as you have told the people about me here in Jerusalem, you must preach the good news in Rome." The plan to kill Paul. The next morning a group of Jews got together and bound themselves with an oath to neither eat nor drink until they had killed Paul. There were more than 40 of them. They went to the leading priests and other leaders and told them what they had done. "We have bound ourselves under oath to neither eat nor drink until we have killed Paul. You and the high council should tell the commander to bring Paul back to the council again," they requested. "Pretend you want to examine his case more fully. We will kill him on the way." But Paul's nephew heard of their plan and went to the fortress and told Paul. Paul called on one of the officers and said, "Take this man to the commander. He has something important to tell them." So the officer did, explaining, "Paul the prisoner called me over and asked me to bring this young man to you because he has something to tell you." The commander took him by the arm, led him aside, and asked, "What is it you want to tell me?" Paul's nephew told him, "Some Jews are going to ask you to bring Paul before the Jewish High Council tomorrow, pretending they want to get some more information. But don't do it. There are more than 40 men hiding along the way, ready to jump him and kill him. They have vowed not to eat or drink until they kill him. They are ready, expecting you to agree to their request. Don't let a soul know you told me this," the commander warned the young man as he sent him away. Paul is sent to Sisera. Then the commander called 2 of his officers and ordered, "Get 200 soldiers ready to leave for Sisera at 9 o'clock tonight. Also take 200 spearmen and 70 horsemen. Provide horses for Paul to ride and get him safely to Governor Felix." Then he wrote this letter to the governor. "From Claudius Lysias to his Excellency Governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by some Jews, and they were about to kill him when I arrived with the troops. When I learned he was a Roman citizen, I removed him to safety. Then I took him to their high council to try to find out what he has done. I soon discovered it was something regarding their religious law. Certainly nothing worthy of imprisonment or death. But when I was informed of a plot to kill him, I immediately sent him on to you. I have told his accusers to bring their charges before you." So that night, as ordered, the soldiers took Paul as far as Antiprantus. They returned to the fortress the next morning, while the horsemen took him on to Sisera. When they arrived in Sisera, they presented Paul in a letter to the governor Felix. He read it and then asked Paul what province he was from. "Cilicia." Again, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, Paul answered. "I will hear your case myself when your accusers arrive," the governor told him. Then the governor ordered him to be kept in the prison at Herod's headquarters. Okay, and with that, I will come back tomorrow with Acts chapter 24.